Hello everyone. It's good to meet you again. So we have our guest today, Garigin Chukadzyan, IT technology scientist, expert, and also politician. Ara Papian, former ambassador in Canada from Armenia, politician, and sure, Sophie Badalyan, student at George Washington University. Hello everyone.
Hello.
Thank you for being here with us. And just a week ago, when we planned our meeting and agenda for today's meeting, online conversation, it was devoted. I mean, the agenda was how the modern technologies impacting to the political situation in the entire world. But we have completely different situation in Armenia. I would say completely different historical situation in Armenia. And we can't avoid this topic in our conversation. Maybe we will start to just briefly describe what's going on in Armenia now. Let's start, Mr. Papian.
Now the situation in Armenia is very tense. It's full of expectation because almost a week ago, General Staff, the members of the staff, asked Nikol Pashinyan for his resignation. And this was some way in addition to many groups that before asked the same Pashinyan. But you know, army is totally different. It's the biggest in numbers organization in Armenia. It's the strongest one. And we think that Armenian army has a special status in Armenia. And because of this, a lot of manifestations are going on in the city. One was organized by himself, Nikol Pashinyan, a couple of days ago, and the other one he will organize on Monday at the evening. Our group organization, National Democratic Access of All, is already the third day in a row we are organizing meetings, manifestations. Today we had a very nice and very spectacular, even I will say, manifestation with torches. And we'll have tomorrow a special concert dedicated to the victims, especially of, March 1st, which happened in 2008, but also will, in a way, remember and give our tribute to all victims within these 33 years of the conflict. And we also hope that within a couple of days we'll find a solution for this situation, and Pashinyan will resign, because no perspective for him to stay in the power when all segments of society are asking for his resignation.
And before Mr. Chukadzyan will describe the situation in Armenia, I want to explain just briefly why we go in English, this conversation, because we had all of these topics discussed in Armenia many times. And our friends, our Armenian friends around the world, where they had no, good skill in Armenian, they can rely only, let's say, other information sources, which are not always, productive, and they are not always honest with the public. So, and the people who don't speak Armenian and don't follow the news in Armenian, they are under huge press and disinformation. So what's going on out of, let's say, public sources of information, they are doing such, let's say, the terrible job is anti-Armenian job. Is pure propaganda, is pure Russian propaganda. So that's why we want to just break this wall of information blockade and just provide some information in English for our friends to the entire world. So, Mr. Garigin Chukadzyan.
I would add some points to the description that Arapapian gave. First of all, I have to say that after the war, the last war in Artsakh, and the defeat that we had there, the instability hasn't disappeared. And instability, in a way, has entered also political sphere of Armenia itself. And we have to ask ourselves, who are interested in this, in increasing the instability, political instability in Armenia? And we could easily find the answer, because the same forces which and factors which brought instability to Caucasus and the defeat of Armenia, they haven't stopped the war. The psychological war against Armenians is continuing, and now it has entered into a crisis phase in political life of Armenia. And they are the same forces again. We see that the powers, first of all, Russia and Turkey, and then Azerbaijan, who after the war each of them got their portion of awards after the war. Now they want to totally eliminate Armenian factor in Caucasus, and this is being done through these political, psychological ways. And inside Armenia, the situation, I want to just remind you that the revolution of 2018, on the wave of which Nikol Pashinyan came to power, Nikol Pashinyan was promising reforms from oligarchic statehood to democratic statehood, and in 2.5 years, those promises just disappeared, and he himself, with his party, close party members, they started to become part of the oligarchic system that existed in Armenia and continued to exist even now after the war. And inside that oligarchic system, now we have two camps, the old ones and new ones, which are blaming the defeat on each other. And the game which was played for 2.5 years after the revolution, the populist game, was that new Pashinyan's team is better than the old ones, and this has created a false dilemma for Armenians even before revolution. And now, after the war, this has been aggravated, and those two camps have created a situation of no alternative political development in Armenia. You have to either choose Pashinyan, or you have to choose the old elite, oligarchic elite that has ruled Armenia in past 25 years. And so, and then the second false dilemma that we have in Armenia is between Russia and Turkey. So this is how the horizon is being, and the future is being presented to Armenian people locally and outside, showing that Armenians have no alternative but to choose the least evil option. And we, as National Democratic Pole, are coming and starting our political activities now in the streets of Yerevan with our own manifestations as a third pole, which is showing that there is an alternative, both external alternative, which means that Armenia has an option to be to break Russian-Turkish architecture, which has been created 100 years ago, and to become part of another world. And in internal politics as well, we are showing that there is a possibility, especially now that the tension has grown to such an extent that we are afraid that every other day there could be clashes, civic clashes between defenders of those two groups. And we are trying to make that impossible.
Before to go to next question, I would just like just understand logically. The first factor is undisputable. The regime of, let's say, government of Nikol Pashinyan, he lost the war. We lost part of our country. Many of people, they don't want to see Pashinyan anymore on the ruling the Armenia. Let's say not majority, minority of population, many of them. Now the generals, they don't want to see Pashinyan on the rule of Armenia. So can you tell me one reason why Pashinyan is expecting the, let's say, support of part of population to stay in this role? What is the logic here? I mean, if obviously you lost the war, the let's say part of population, they don't want anymore to see you there, and the generals also, they don't want to serve you, and you want still be there. What for? What is logically is the explanation there?
I do not think that there is any logic there. Just it was his desire for long years to become not as a leader of country, because he couldn't even imagine that one day he will be, but to have a high position, higher than member of parliament. And it happened. And now he's trying to keep his position, which gives him authority, because we have to understand that Pashinyan, he himself has a lot of psychological problems from his childhood, from his youth, from his very poor years and so on. And now he's taking revenge on everyone, including Armenia and Armenians. This is the problem. Secondly, he is kind of person that will sacrifice everything for that. He has no moral breaks to stop himself. And if, let's say, half of that we read and listen about him are truth, at least he will be convicted, at least, because if 10%, what now we read about him, and also he is concerned and maybe afraid that not only he will lose his position, but also his freedom as well, because he and his team command were acting so unlawfully, and the money was misused so drastically that even when we compare with Serge Sarkisian or Kocharyan's period, even the situation is worse. But he has some kind of a magic that keeps people or a part of Armenian population under his influence, and some people are ready to protect him. Especially, he is using very smartly this contradiction with the former Armenian authorities and leaders. The people are blackmailed that if Pashinyan will go down, the former leaders, Kocharyan, especially Kocharyan, will regain the power, and people are afraid. But as my friend Karegin told, there is a third option for everyone. And we are part of that third option, which is we see as a national power, as a democratic power, because we'll see that our vision for Armenian country, it must be democratic country, as a modern country, but meanwhile as a national country to keep our national traditions and values. In brief, I will say no logic, no real explanation, but just it's his character and his desire to keep power.
Before Mr. Pashinyan will answer the question, I would like to ask our friends who are watching us, please share the link which is streaming via Facebook, especially in Europe, in US, just let the people see the discussion, which is, in my view, it's very, very important. Yes, sir.
You see, there is, in your question, I would tell there are two portions. One is the logic, the subjective logic of Pashinyan himself, but there is also the part which is concerning the political consciousness of our populace, of our population of Armenia, because of many reasons. Because many people have left Armenia, especially middle-class people and specialists, and we had a situation of a very polarized society in Armenia that has created certain expectations on majority of population that a savior like Pashinyan, who came to and who managed to overthrow the regime of Serge Sarkisyan as a savior, people were in euphoric conditions psychologically, and they were expecting that the savior will do everything. Our power, our party, Zasnatsared, which was participating in the elections of 2018, we were during the elections, we were telling that this is a very dangerous situation politically, because if one monopoly of power will be overthrown by a second monopoly power, then it could create very serious consequences. And we were expecting, even in 2018, that in 2 or 3 years, there will be serious political problems in Armenia, and then we would have extraordinary elections. And we have said about this even before war in 2018. But the international situation aggravated, and we had this war in 2020, and now we have a national catastrophe and national crisis inside Armenia, political crisis. So this objective situation, which is characterizing our population, and Pashinyan's psychological portrait, which we heard from Arapapian, these two factors are affecting the situation. And as a very good populist manipulator, which managed to take the lead during this revolutionary wave in Armenia, Pashinyan now is trying also to do populistic manipulation and use the former leaders of Armenia as the main and expecting that population will defend him. He is explaining that he has such an objective situation that he couldn't win the war, and the blame is on the former rulers of Armenia and not himself. So this has created certain percentage, quite high percentage of population who still believe that the blame is on the former governors and not Pashinyan himself. But there is also the third factor, which is external factor. As you understand, both parties are somehow trying to accommodate Russian interests, and Russia is trying to use those two forces, or both are of origin. Now we can say that both have become. The former was oligarchic, the new one became oligarchic, and this is being used, and they are trying to manipulate on this as well from outside. That is helping somehow Pashinyan for some time, being, but because of the third pole that now has shown that we are showing that we exist, this is forcing the outer forces to somehow bring a fast solution to, because it is creating, especially when our general staff has this announcement this week, it has created a new political situation, because those two former non-alternative forces are in a stalled situation. And for example, in November, when our National Democratic Pole tried to do a manifestation, they arrested us just after the war. And now, because army has come into play, saying that you cannot attack, telling to government, you cannot attack the people, ordinary citizens who have so many victims during this war. And they have somehow told that in their announcement. The police is very polite with us, and we are doing today is the third day that we are doing our meetings and manifestations, and the police is very nice with us, because it has opened a possibility. It is still a possibility. We don't know how the developments will unfold, but it is a possibility for democratic development in Armenia. But we have to see how things will unfold.
Before to go to the questions, I just want to remind our followers that you can just direct your questions to our guests. And I want to remind you that 2 years ago, not only 2 years ago, many years ago, you did a lot of predictions. And most of them, in fact, they happen. First of all, like when they start, like isolate Artsakh from Armenia, just divide, take it apart, and you predict that this path will take to loss of Artsakh. This is not the right way to go. And next prediction, 2 years ago, after election, you just predict that this parliament will have life for 1.5, maximum 2 years. And it's happened also. Do you have any prediction regarding our future? Mr. Papian? Any good predictions, if there is?
All will depend in what direction the country will move, because we have in a saying that we are born one time and we do not need to try more than one time. And the same we have in Sasunci David, in our national
legend,
epic novel, saying that do not try which was tried. This is if people will choose the already past, I do not see any bright future. But I hope that first of all, we will have changes within the country with new forces, powers, parties, groups that are, as I told already, democratic and national. Secondly, if our general foreign policy will be changed, deeply will be changed. Let's say the Western orientation of our foreign policy, especially this last 5-10 years was very weak. We are totally under Russian control, and we see now that for Russia, Turkey and Azerbaijan, they are more important than Armenia. It's clear. And when you are less important for so-called your strategic ally, you will lose every time. And I see possibilities with closer interaction, connection with the West, especially with the United States, because we have to remind the United States as well that we have very close relationship and they have obligations towards Armenia as a state. Yes, they rejected the mandate over Armenia in 1920, but anyway, the borders of the republic were decided, drawn by President of the United States, directly with Turkey and indirectly via League of Nations with Georgia and Azerbaijan. And this is very important because for us, it's not just territory. It's a security issue and safety issue, first of all. Secondly, it's an economic issue because having, let's say, free access to sea, it will help Armenian economy really to grow faster. What is trying the current leadership in Armenia? They want to sacrifice all our national claims and rights in order to get so-called the border opened. But when you are looking just and asking for them, Turkey, they can open one day, keep for a year or so the border open, and then find some kind of excuse and close it. So we need big, drastic changes within Armenia, and the same kind of changes in our foreign policy. We have to really be part of Western world that we used to be for centuries.
Mr. Shirajan?
As a result of the war, the other geopolitical players, especially Western one, especially France and United States, were pushed out of the process of Nagorno-Karabakh peace process. And we have to, depending on our ability, our national ability, I mean, here not only government, but also self-organization of Armenian people inside Armenia, including Artsakh, as well as diaspora, if we can self-organize ourselves, and first of all, politically, to try to bring back those actors into the play, it's not easy now, because in a way we are almost occupied country. But if we manage to do that now, then and we have to say that it is possible, because both Turkey, Azerbaijan, and others used the moment in 2020 when the world was busy with COVID, when Europe was busy with Brexit, when United States was busy with elections, and the vacuum that was created in our region, they managed to force this defeat on Armenia. And now then we see that situation is changing with the Biden administration in power. The Turkish-American relations are shaping differently, and Europe is also having very special relations, especially in Eastern Mediterranean with Turkey. But then there are also other non-Western countries which are creating, which are becoming allies against interests of Turkey, and not an interest, but the expansionist policies of Turkey. And we, as a nation, our hands are tied by Russians. We do not have our foreign relations are decided in Moscow, not in Yerevan. And we have lost that part of sovereignty, which we have to restore, as Mr. Papian told about our foreign relations. We have to restore this, but this is a necessary, not enough condition. We ourselves, we have in Armenia to realize that we lost the battle. We haven't lost the war, because our army, most of our army is intact. Most of our nation is intact, and we of course it was a huge loss, but we have not to exaggerate the loss. We have enough forces, and if we will manage to reform the doctrine of our army, and just for comparison, a nation inside Soviet Union, Armenian Republic, Soviet Republic, had given more than 300,000 or even more Armenians to Soviet army in their fight against Nazi Germany. There were about 600,000 Armenians fighting in Soviet army. And we were a nation of maybe only 2 million at that time, even more, less. Armenia, the doctrine, if we change the doctrine of the army in Armenia, and we create a new type of army, then I'm sure we can have enough force to defend ourselves, of course, with new allies, which must be the most important lesson from this battle that we lost. We have to identify ourselves, who are our enemies, and then find the enemies of our enemies and try to establish relations with them. This is the best scenario that could secure our future in this region, or else there could be some other very dire scenarios as well, about which right now I don't want to speak.
We have many questions from the Facebook, and I would like to ask Sophia go for them. Sophia, please.
Before, can I ask a question of my own as well?
Sure.
I see on social media and Facebook and other platforms of other diaspora and members of the diaspora and other people that are trying to keep up with the news in Armenia, which, like you both already mentioned, is very difficult a lot of times, especially for English speakers, to keep up with current events in an unbiased way, in a really true and honest and open manner. And I think a lot of people that I've been seeing post are worried about when Nikol resigns, if he resigns, that what would the next steps be? I think some people are concerned that it'll be a moment of instability for Armenia, and that it might open an opportunity of being able to take advantage of that vulnerability in that position. So what do you see of the next steps after Nikol resigns? What would happen after that?
Okay, I will answer, and then Mr. maybe Chukasyan. No, I do not think that there will be instability in Armenia if Nikol will resign, because he is the source of instability in Armenia. Because let's say on Monday, why he is calling to have this manifestation, and in this way he's provoking the people, because he knows that the society is divided at least into two parts, maybe even more, and he is guilty for that, because when he became the leader of a country, he had big possibilities and opportunity to fulfill what he promised, to clean up all the apparatus of the government, and he didn't do anything till now. he spoke a lot of times before even becoming prime minister about fighting the corruption and so on. Who is convicted till now? No one. We do not have any court verdict till now. Nobody was convicted. And this gave the former authorities and who were corrupt and are corrupt actually possibility to, they were reborn. He helped them. And now he's trying to keep them alive because, just as I told, blackmailing people with the existence of Kocharyan and Serge Sarkisyan, he's keeping his, let's say, chair. He's fighting for this. Otherwise, let's imagine that there were no forces except himself, no Kocharyan, no Serge Sarkisyan, but another, let's say, democratic and national forces. For sure, within a couple of days, he would be overthrown. But keeping them alive, Kocharyan and Sarkisyan, he keeps his power. This is his power, and this is why he is the source of instability. If he will go, what will happen? We'll have maybe a temporary government with so-called a manager prime minister, not a political person, who will not run in future for that position. We need to have changes in very important, let's say, election code, law on parties, some changes in constitution. Speaking for diaspora, according to the current constitution, actually no one from diaspora can hold any high rank position in Armenia, become minister or to become member of parliament. It's forbidden according to the constitution. We have to remove this. Yeah, there must be some restriction. Let's say before to be elected, he must live a year or two maybe in Armenia to adjust himself what's going on in Armenia and so on. But just to forbid to run for office because they hold second citizenship for a nation with huge diaspora. We speak about using all these capacities of diaspora, how it can be done without including them in cabinet or in parliament and so on. I think it will be better without Pashinyan than with him.
Mr. Chikazyan.
Right now, we have no future with present prime minister. This situation cannot last forever. There is no future with the former ruling governors as well, because they were rejected by people. So we have to find a solution for our future on the basis of national agreement between different parties, including the ruling party, but not with Pashinyan, because Pashinyan has become a symbol of defeat, symbol of incompetence, symbol of loser nation. We cannot have any future with such kind of symbol. Of course, there is a danger with the new situation, but at least it is a future. It is a future with challenges. But now we have no future with this guy. So we have to overcome this situation by contemporary government, as the Arapapian told, until extraordinary elections. And we need some time before the extraordinary elections to do the changes that which Mr. Papian described. So that means a certain program, an agenda, and we as a National Democratic Pole have suggested that agenda both to the cabinet, ruling cabinet, and to other political forces in Armenia, to the president as well, And right now we are in negotiations with those parties to find a solution to the crisis.
Any crisis is opportunity. It depends how we can use the situation. So the momentum, so the opportunity. If you can use, it can be your opportunity to become better and become the country what we are wish. So, Sofia.
There are a few more questions from our viewers, and one of them is regarding this this particular topic about a new government. So they're asking, what would be other points on the agenda for a new government besides just bringing down Pashinyan and kind of moving past this era of loss and failure? What other priorities would you want to see from a new government aside from just that?
I think that one of the priorities for every government in Armenia for near future must be the army, because army is the main provider of security of the country, and we drastically, negatively, our environment, security, safety environment was changed. We have much longer border with Azerbaijan that we need to defeat and protect. We have this new situation with Magri corridor and so, which we really do not understand what will be. We have this new presence of Turkish presence in South Caucasus that wasn't at least for 300 years. Last time Turks were in South Caucasus is 1724, 25, and now they are there. In Agdam, just in front of Stepanakert, yeah, they just small unit, 60 people, but they are having much bigger one, an army in Nakhchivan, and from Nakhchivan they can challenge, even threaten Yerevan and Ararat Valley, which is part of the republic. 2/3 of Armenian population lives there in Ararat Valley. This is a big challenge for every government. The army must be a modern one, equipped with artificial intelligence, drones, and other, let's say, equipment. Secondly, we need to have some kind of national unity, because what was done by Pashinyan, he psychologically divided people. When we read some statements on, let's say, Facebook or some other social media, never Armenians were cursing each other on, let's say, openly in this way. This is a new political culture that was invested, let's say, by Pashinyan himself. This new vocabulary, using such kind of word, it changed, because, you know, when the words define your thinking as well, what kind of word? This is, we need more, let's say, unity among the nation, and called for changes in foreign policy, that it must be done. Closer and more efficient relations with the West, especially with the United States. So much for now.
Yeah, I would add some points for especially internal policies that have to be adopted by the new government. And this is in part connected with Pashinyan, trying to overcome the damage that Pashinyan has created, which Mr. Papian described. But there are also some deeper social problems that we have inherited even before Pashinyan from the former governments. And that's the first of all, the huge social polarization that we have inherited inside Armenia. And that is the main cause that trying to bring national cooperation and harmony inside is somehow based on the solution of this polarization problem, which was created, the oligarchic type of economy that we have in Armenia. And in fact, as Vartan Hagopian told, in Chinese, the symbol for crisis and the symbol for opportunity is the same hieroglyph, and the challenge and crisis, military instability in the region is forcing Armenians to find a solution for internal harmony and trying to find a solution how we are going to pass through these internal conflicts that we have in society. We are not the only country in the world. There have been many countries who have passed through conflicts, internal conflicts, much harsher conflicts that Armenians had. I could mention many Latin American countries, African countries. We have to take, we have no need to invent the bicycle. We have to learn from those type of societies how they have managed to overcome the internal conflicts through certain policies, and those policies imply several things like lustration, like vetting, like political mechanism of coming to terms with the conflicting sides, and we have to do this and involve specialists. In fact, some work has been done in the last 2 years, but nothing has been implemented. The policies are there, but the implementation team and implementation in actual politics hasn't been done in Armenia. So the reforms which Pashinyan's government had promised, part of those reforms had to be fulfilled. We have to continue the work done in theory to make it reality. So this is also part of the agenda of the new government.
Sofia?
Yes, of course.
And by the way, I forgot to name, there is a term for this, which is transitionary justice. The mechanisms of transitionary justice have to be implemented in Armenia.
Thank you. And then another question is regarding the same topic of what are the options for the Armenian people in terms of opposition to Pashinyan, other than the former political actors and powers that were active in the past? Is there an alternative? Who is that alternative? And who should Armenians be looking to support it moving forward?
Excuse me, if there is some noise, these are my grandchildren, so I'm sorry. They are very small, so maybe there is some noise coming from them.
Now Armenian government tries to show that just there are two parties exist, or two parts of society exist. One is Nikol team, and the other one are so-called 17 plus or minus, some parties that, but in addition to these parties, there are a lot of new groups and new parties. Why we do not see nice choice if people, instead of Nikol Pashinyan, would choose the former parties? Because they are the same that to be blamed for the corruption. They were for a long time the members, let's say, Bargava Chayastan or Dashnak Tuchun, they were part of Kocharyan's Oser Sarkisyan cabinet. The cabinet that exists with and was blamed to be a corrupt one, they were there. and they are not better than Serge Sargsyan himself. They were junior partners of that government. So we see that the solution is to find for people to not only to look but also to see and understand that exists. You are asking who? I can name, let's say, our group, National Democratic Pole exists. Azgan Jortavarakan Bever. There are people there with experience. Some of them were for a long time in government as high officials, and with this, they were not corrupt. This is very important, because how you can understand who will be a corrupt official who knows? Let's look their background and understand. Had that person to become a corrupt one? Yes. Let's say Mr. Chukazyan was head of a big department with many possibilities to, let's say, put money in his pocket from that. He never did. This shows that the possibility that he will be a corrupt politician or official are really very minor. And so, and many other people we can see around us, not only in our group, but also with partner groups. So always the new ones, I think, new opportunity. They open new opportunities.
I must tell that the image of political field in Armenia as being consisted of two poles only, the formers and new ones, it's a false image based on oligarchic nature of Armenian economy and media. Everything was concentrated in monopolistic hands before the revolution. And after the revolution, as I said, the promises were not fulfilled, and the new power became part of the system and part of oligarchy. And we could say that those old and new ones are representing oligarchic power, with oligarchic means with monopolistic economic means and media means, which means that the other political alternatives, because everything is monopolized, they are not being reflected in media as strong as those two are. That's why it is so important of the support of both the Armenians inside and outside of Armenia, from diaspora especially, to form this third, to make the third pole more visible in the media sphere, both in Armenia and outside. I could tell that after the elections of 2018, the public television of Armenia, which is called public, but governed by the new government, they never invited any representatives of this alternative political pole to any political discussion, which shows that the new ones are as monopolistic as the former ones. Instead, we were using only internet means, which are quite limited with their influence inside Armenia, because many people are still very much connected with television. The same is true for satellite televisions, which are being transmitted from Armenia to the world. Those are closed for us. And so many diasporan communities have this false image that Armenian political sphere is divided between two, and we have no choice but to choose the least evil one. This is not right. There are very the ideas, the political alternatives exist in Armenia.
Before the next question, I just want to emphasize again, that's why it's very important our stream, and please share, friends. Please share the stream with our friends. With this, we do these discussions in many languages like Armenian, in Russian, in English. Why? Just make the people know that the statement what you got, that there is only two poles in the entire world, that this is the worst, this is bad, and that one is worse, is false statement. So this statement was created like intentionally years to make you feel that you have no any choice. You must choose between bad and the worst one. So, and which is interesting in this case, that those two poles, they are belong and they are serve Russian interests. They are just concurrence between them who will serve better way Russian interests. This is a whole story. That's why please share our discussions and follow us in Facebook, in YouTube, elsewhere, you see.
Vartan, I want to add something here,
Okay.
because not only sharing, but supporting that third pole is very important. Because as Marshall McLuhan was telling, the medium is the message in our era, which means that we have to strengthen the medium. We have the message, but we need to strengthen the medium so that message could reach people. Thank you.
So how do you both believe it's possible to break this narrative of the lesser of two evils, so that ordinary, everyday Armenians can kind of understand what's really going on in the true political sphere? And you mentioned that many Armenians are more connected with TV and less involved in on the internet and getting political information online, but obviously the diaspora is very connected on the internet, and that's how a lot of us stay in touch and keep on top of current events and what's going on. And so how can the diaspora help to kind of break through this media blackout to Armenians in Armenia? Is the internet, is that not a viable solution, or do you think we should be pushing more to connect with Armenians in Armenia on the internet? What are some concrete steps that we can take so that ordinary Armenians can see the truth?
Well, first of all, we need to pass through that wall, Berlin Wall, that is created in front of us, to pass our message to people. It can be done through, mainly if we'll have a TV, but it's not now a realistic one because it's an expensive one and lot of permissions for that. But we can improve our, let's say, broadcasting via internet, and we are using, with your help, with help of others, we now have better, let's say, studio for that, with more equipment and more modern equipment. And we speak, and I can say for myself, in average, I am giving 2 or 3 interviews on many online TVs or publications. Secondly, we need to open offices through all over the country. The other parties, oligarchic ones, they have money. They can open an office with 2 or 3 their representatives there and can visit and have some kind of meetings there. I mean, face-to-face meeting. We also need to do that. But we have just one office in Yerevan and then second studio in Yerevan. With these 2 possibilities, it's impossible. At least, let's say, in Armenia, there are over 40 towns and cities. An average party in Armenia has at least 40 offices all over the country. And we do not have to wait that the official elections will be declared. It must be done before to have this closer, because let's say yesterday we have this manifestation in Yerevan in front of Matenadaran, and we also mingled with people and discussed with them, and we are getting feedback what they want, in which way they want to be, all our ideas must be explained for them. This is, I mean, through technical means, TV and internet, and through offices, which means face-to-face, we can call it even a propaganda of our ideas, because they have to understand and to know who we are, because sometimes our ideas especially are misrepresented by other means. Just it happened with me 2 days ago, when they cut a part of a sentence and they put as a title to all my interview, and usually people, not everyone watches the interviews, they just read the title and make their conclusions. This is, we need to be more available on information landscape.
I would add 2 more points. First is the possibility of being translated into English, Russian, and French, maybe languages, maybe other languages later. But these 3 languages are very important, and we need to hire translators, which is also something which is connected with the money. Also, the technological enhancement, I don't mean only hardware, but also people, specialists who are working in artificial intelligence, which are quite expensive, could help us in using the modern media technologies. And we understand, I'm specialist myself in those technologies, and I was a very successful one, having our company and world prizes and so on. But noticing what was happening inside political sphere, and because nobody was taking care, I understood that I have certain responsibilities as a citizen, and I left most of my business to come and to participate in politics, because I understood that nobody will do instead of me. But I understand that the work which can be technologically done with software engineers, with AI engineers, also could enhance our medium. So that is why it is important to support us to hire this kind of specialists, which, as I said, are quite expensive. This is the second point, which I would add, how we can strengthen the third pole, the alternative for Armenian political sphere.
Yeah.
Yeah, and continuing on that, why do you think that there is a lack of representation and presence of young Armenians in the government, young men and women, more progressive or reformist minded, younger individuals? Why one of our viewers is asking why we're seeing the elderly representing Armenia. Do you think that having more young people in the government would be something positive and progressive, or why do you think that that this lack of young representation is?
I do not agree with that. In contrary, we have very young government with deputy prime ministers 32 or 33 years, ministers that are 28 or 29. And this was very negative for us, because it was lack of any experience and any knowledge of governance. It not means that, like, if the government is young, it means progressive. No, let's say among them there are young in their years, but they are with Stalinistic mind, threatening people with police and KGB and so on. No, I think that the appreciation of a person must be based on his knowledge and on his, let's say, capacity to lead that field that for what he will be responsible. We have very young government and not always successful, let's say.
I would add that we need fresh minds, and those fresh minds, alternative thinking, alternative conceptual analysis, and also wisdom, which is needed to pass through very turbulent times through which Armenia is going to pass now. And that means we need a mixture of those two things. I agree that we have to have the diversity of ages, diversity of gender, but it is not a purpose in itself to have just young or just women in the government. Women are very important. Unfortunately, as I said, the specialists, the meritocratic possibility for Armenian government has also some objective obstacles, like the specialists who are successful, they are paid in private sphere, especially in a globalized world. They can live in Armenia and work for any other company outside and get a lot of money. That is creating also an exodus of specialists, meritocratic good cadre from government, pushing out of government. That is an objective problem, which is not connected with this or that, with Nikol Pashinyan or with former government. This is an objective economic problem which we are facing. And we have to solve that issue as well. And here as well, it is so important of diaspora participation, and we need to get rid of the obstacles, because we are, for years, we were regarding on diaspora only for financial aid to Armenia. We were not looking on the knowledge and the experience that diaspora has accumulated for years, a very expensive one, both strategic knowledge. We need to create an interface, I would say, a new interface with diaspora, which is based not only on money, but on knowledge, on experience, and on education and things like that. And for doing this, we need experienced and knowledgeable people who could create that. As an example, I would tell you something. In 2007, during Serge Sarkisyan's regime, we managed to create an interface between Silicon Valley and Armenia, so-called Armtech Forum, which was held in San Francisco in 2007. And that forum had successive meetings, very successful, and study tours for Armenian high-tech companies to Silicon Valley. And out of those study tours, very successful Armenian companies, startups were born and got world reputation, like Pixar and others. And but unfortunately, that forum ceased to exist from in 2011, because the initiators from Armenia were pushed out for political reasons by Serge Sarkisyan's regime, and it was stopped. When in 2018 the new people came to power, we met with the new minister, which was very young and promising young man who took the power in high technology ministry, and we suggested him to restore that that forum, and our diaspora partners also joined us with this proposal. He said, we are going to do our own interface. He never did anything. They just took Pashinyan to United States for a visit, which was a very unsuccessful visit, and nothing was born out of that serious thing. So, I mean, the young people need to be, of course, in government, but we need also people who respect the previous work that has been done both in diaspora and in Armenia as well.
If you go any company to to apply for a job, the first criteria what they're looking for: experience, knowledge, and the heritage, professional heritage, what you have. So it's not depends the age or gender. So especially in government, there cannot be any criteria except experience, knowledge, and professional agenda and experience and heritage what you have. This only criteria can be.
No,
so,
age is important. I disagree on this. Age is important because the diversity is important, I guess. We need, in teams, we need to have the diversity.
Okay. I have a question from my colleagues. And the question was regarding Iran and Israel. So, you know, the relationship, like also so-called relationship between Iran and Israel, and there is Armenia. How can bridge Armenia to those two states? Is that possible? Is there any way?
Surely it's possible. If someone can do this, why we can't? Look our neighbor to Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan has very close relation with Israel and very close relation with Iran. And nobody blames them, because some people try to show that we have worsened our relation with Iran because we opened an embassy in Israel. Okay, sure, we have to open, because it was a foolish thing to recall our ambassador from Israel at the beginning of the war, instead of keeping him, because he has a job to be done. He has to explain the situation. And this is, we cannot underestimate our possibilities. Let's say if there is a government, there is a state, Israel, there, and it will be with new technologies and big influence all over the world. Can we ignore them? Oh, the same with Iran. Can we ignore? No. But we have to make all them understand, as we respect their interests. We do not blame Iran for that he has very close relation with Azerbaijan or with Turkey. It's up to them to decide. The same attitude we need to have from Iran towards Armenia as well. They have to respect our choices. Can we bridge? I do not think that we can, especially this current government, because let's say myself, suggested them at the beginning as when Pashinyan gained power, and I myself, as a person, discussed with Iranian diplomats and US diplomats what will be the possibility if Yerevan will be the venue to have a meeting between US and Iran to bridge this big gap, because at that time they were holding very secret meetings in Geneva, and Yerevan was one of the best choices. I told already that I talked to both sides and they agreed, but they told me, who do you represent? I said, myself. They said, we need an official suggestion. I talked to foreign relations advisor of Pashinyan about this. He went to Pashinyan, and Pashinyan just ignored this. This is, and at that time I was surprised because I was hoping that Pashinyan will be more open to the suggestions. But later I understood that he is even more close than even Sarkisian or Kocharyan. At least I do remember, at least they were discussing with you. They very often did not agree with you, but at least there was some kind of discussion, and we have possibility to show our ideas. With Pashinyan, it was never possible, and not only with us, it was impossible for others as well.
Historically, we are through centuries and millennia, we have been living in a place which is a hub of mutually very different civilizations. We have been always a hub for those civilizations. Just as an example, I would mention that many ambassadors of Iran to Western Europe were Armenians, the most famous ones. And the same was true for also Ottoman Turkey in later years. And even the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ottoman Turkey was Armenian for some time. Why I'm telling this? Because this is our historical mission in this region, where there are many civilizations, and we are on the bridge of those, living on the bridge of those civilizations. We have to have two missions here in this region. First, we have to be enough strong to defend ourselves and to be a fortress. But at the same time, we have, and this is also historically been through centuries, we have been a bridge between civilizations. And those two functions, if you just try to imagine, it is an image which is coming to my mind, the Tower Bridge in London. If you have ever seen that, you can find the image from Google. This is a bridge in London, which is both a fortress and a bridge. We need to be such a country here, and I see this option for Armenian future quite clearly. But we need to do something to reach that independence as a nation, for our defending ourselves and also establishing independent relations with any other country. There are no eternal enemies and no eternal allies, as there are only eternal interests, as the Duke of Marlborough, or better known as Winston Churchill, was telling.
As long as we are here, like discussion the role of Armenia between Iran and Israel, or Iran and US, and I met a lot of people, especially non-Armenian speaking people. They are just restricted from the basic information, and they more relied to the news which is coming from the other sources, which is under control of Russian propaganda. So most of them, they are pretty sure that the country like Armenia, small, poor, weak, and there is not any chance but loss, anything. And he's supposed to be like, to survive, he's supposed to be under control of Russia, just only in the pocket. Russia is even part of Russia. So is there any arguments like to tell, hey guys, you have really like deep delusion. You are in deep delusion. So that's not true. And we have capabilities and opportunities to become more independent and successful. So is there any argument?
Yes, because in current world, the technology has changed a lot of things. including how you create the volume and how the countries become rich. You can be landlocked, you can be a small by a territory, but be a rich and successful country. As well, let's say your safety can be provided not only by you, but also by countries far away. You see, it's a famous saying from British that British ships cannot go over Armenian mountains. Yes, because at that time British had no real army, but only the flag. But now, let's say the United States, which is a global power, can have a power projection in any part of the world, which means that if you have good relations, let's say if you have the status of a major non-NATO ally of the United States, that few countries have, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand, Israel, Argentina, and so on, they can provide your security. First, we can solve in this way the problem of Armenian security. Secondly, if we will be more associated with European Union and the market, it's the biggest market, over 500 million people are living there, and almost 40,000 income per capita per year, which is a huge market. And for a small country, it's much easier to provide wealth for smaller countries. The problem is with safety. The safety you are providing with the help of some kind of ally, but the market and the wealth you can create yourself. The problem was that being under Russian control, you cannot live better than in Russia. It's clear Russia will sell you the natural gas, the oil, with high prices, and let's say now we are paying in Armenia the prices for natural gas is higher than in Western Europe, and how our businesses can survive with these high prices. We are a landlocked country, but if we'll manage to produce knowledge-based, let's say, production, this software, and so it was very successful for Armenia. 20% increase of volume of production in IT. I don't know. Last year, maybe we will have not positive result, but this is the future of Armenia. And also the third one is to have a modern agriculture to provide food safety for the country.
Mr. Chugazyan.
Yeah, we are living in an era of a civilizational shift to fourth industrial revolution. We are passing through fourth industrial revolution, and that means that every such revolution has brought new winners and new losers. And some small countries who had understood the new logic, whoever had managed to understand that logic, they could have, if we look back, we could see many small countries who managed to take the lead in these new revolutions, and they have managed to be very successful countries, like small countries like Holland or Portugal or others. And now there is a new shift in the world, a civilizational shift. And if you look on innovation map in the world, it is very unevenly distributed map. The most of innovation is now happening in certain pockets of the world. And that innovation has to be spread all over the globe. And you need, I mean, the world needs hubs of the technology transfer centers. Armenia, if you look on the economic statistics, especially in high technology, as an example, I would, for example, suggest the global artificial intelligence index, which was published a couple of days ago, you could look there and find Armenia in 45th position, which is unusually high position. We are ahead of Turkey even, which is unbelievable. But that shows that the potential that we have as a nation, as a technology transfer center in the region, is huge. We had been in that role, again, through centuries. We had been the innovators, bringing the innovations from all over the world to the region. We were the first to bring writing systems to Caucasian nations. We were the first to bring printing press to Iran and Turkey and Russia. We were the first in Soviet Union, among the first to create computer science research centers and computer production, actually. And you could say it was in late 50s, in 1960, we had our own computers called Yerevan, Razdan, and others, and we were among maybe 4 nations who were producing computers in the world. That means we have this potential even now. And so to become a technology transfer center, to become a center which is exporting green technologies, which is exporting ecological models of new civilization to the region, this is a mission which Armenia can have. But we need people with mission and vision who could lead the country, who could mobilize the power, not only inside Armenia, technological power and strategic knowledge, but also the diaspora power. Without such kind of people and such kind of political force, all the resources, all the abilities that our nation has will just disappear. We will be spread all over the world and disappear as a nation. That's why it is so important to also remember that we are among maybe 5 countries who had kept their political identity as independent statehoods from early ancient times. It's India, China, Israel, Greece, and we. How we have managed to have independent statehoods through centuries, being so small. China, we could understand. India, we could understand. Iran, we could understand. How had Armenians survived through centuries? Because they have always managed to understand the new logic of the world, like the writing systems, like Christianity, like the printing press, and now new technological wave. We have that power in Armenia and in diaspora. Thank you.
Mr. Tukasyan, you just brought to me next question. So if we were such a creator, such a huge person, I mean nation, how we became this?
How what?
How we came this kind of like improved situation? Why then our country is so small? We are almost in the end of, let's say, at the edge of losing independence and state.
So we are speaking about political problems, crisis that we are going through.
Correct.
I would tell you that politically, we, because of these last 600 years, when we lost our kingdom in Cilicia, it took us 600 years to restore our independence in 2018. In 1918. After that, if you remember, there was quite a bright possibility for our independent development, and Arapapian could speak about this, about Wilson plan and Wilson Armenian-American relations. Unfortunately, that never happened because of the aggression, Turkish-Russian aggression in 1920, and that aggression and that pact, Ataturk-Lenin Pact, was like Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact against Baltic states, how they divided Eastern European countries. So that we were that was the worst thing that happened to us in 20th century after the genocide. But we managed to survive Soviet Empire, and now we will manage to survive the new world order that is being developed in this Eurasian world. We see that there are several globalistic programs like the Chinese One Belt, One Road program, which is stretching from Shanghai to Rotterdam. And by the way, this war was part of that plan. Turkish Russians were trying to create a middle kingdom between Europe and China. But there are other global powers which are trying to look on the map differently. Like India is having their own problems with Pakistan and China, and they are looking on completely other types of Eurasian world. Or it could be United States, or it could be even China. But we haven't done any the homework, as Arap Papian was telling, the foreign relations part, we haven't done. If we'll do this, if we'll stretch our backs and say we are going to be a nation here, a small and proud nation, we can do that.
Do you have anything to say, Mr. Papian?
We have the capacity, we have the opportunity, we need to be more focused on our future and put our efforts together, as already we spoke to, use diaspora as a bridge. You use that word bridge, because we can be a really bridge among not only civilization, also with countries. And I am relying a lot on US Armenian community, American Armenian community there, because it's new kind of Armenians from Armenia. They change the structure of American Armenian communities, and they have closer interaction with the Republic of Armenia, and this will give new possibilities, opportunities. But this is for a short time, let's say for 20 years, not more, 10, 20 years. We have to utilize within these 20 years. Otherwise, we lost the country and the diaspora as well.
Sophia?
Yeah, so as you both mentioned, Armenia has a great source of human capital and talent in science and technology and information technology. Are we doing enough as a nation to really nurture those talents and provide opportunities to Armenians and young Armenians that want to be more involved in the space and innovate?
Maybe I will start this question.
Yes, please.
Answering to this question. You know, IT is one of those rare spheres in Armenia which has shown a steady growth in last, let's say, at least 20 years, even more, 20-something years. And being a representative of IT sphere, I would say that this spectacular growth has been not because of government, but against all the obstacles that the government has been trying to create in this sphere. Now, imagine if we would have a new government in Armenia, which would try to open and create interfaces with diaspora, about which I was telling. Then we would have much more spectacular growth, because we are our nation is not, I'm not just telling this because I'm Armenian, but you can compare the innovation index of Armenia, and I also already told about artificial intelligence index, and see, for example, in those indexes that the human capital part of the index is always much higher than government support indexes everywhere. And that means that my statements are well grounded. We have potential for that internal growth, and the network logic, which is the underlying logic of this fourth industrial revolution, has to be applied all over the government, which our government is lacking. But to do this, first thing is political change. Political change will create in the ground for technological and economic change, and also for military change. That's why it's so important that we get enough support from our nation, from domestically and outside, to change this false picture, a non-alternative future that is being depicted for Armenia. And I would ask Vartan Hagopian somehow to give some links to our pages in Facebook and in internet, on web, so you could have access to those pages. And also, if you support us, that would be we will be very thankful if you'll do this.
I will do. Sophia, do we have questions?
Yes, we have a few. Yes, we have a few questions. We have one directed towards Mr. Papyan, specifically about international affairs in Armenia. And you were discussing relations with other governments, and they are asking that discussions with any other governments must depend on mutual benefits, and they believe that Armenia has little to offer in this sphere. So what does Armenia have to offer if we want relations with other Israel or even the United States? How can we leverage those discussions?
Okay, Armenia is a really small country, maybe a tiny country, but its positions very strategically. Now we can see that Russia and Turkey are becoming closer and closer, which represents a challenge for the United States and maybe in future threat. So what is the interest of the United States in South Caucasus? To have policy of double containment, which means to contain Russia going south and to contain Turkey going northeast, because this synergy of these two countries, two powers, will drastically change the situation. We know that as it was 100 years ago, currently Russia and Turkey are isolated from West, and this drives them closer. So if Armenia will serve Russian interests, it will have no role and importance for the United States. Okay, it's part of Russia serving Russian interests. Who cares about that country? If Armenia will have the role of double containment, contain Turkey and Russia, Armenia cannot do this alone and being small and weak, which means that the United States must create possibilities to enlarge Armenia, to make Armenia technologically advanced and stronger and richer, because of that role, that it's in benefit of the United States, not Armenia. Okay, all depends what is your policy. And because of a long-standing tradition, Armenia and the United States, it was political, humanitarian, so, and including the existence of a huge diaspora, will help to have closer relations, because usually when we look on political map, on the, let's say, day by day information, Armenia exists there, with people speaking, the other country speaks about Armenia, if it has something to do with the other countries. Let's say for the United States, this is where to show ourselves and to have this interconnection with, let's say, United States. It's a big possibility. Will the United States appreciate so much Armenia? I don't know. For now, not. But this only choice for us. We have to put our efforts there and to be constantly fighting for that.
I would add that the same is true also for Georgia, and we have here another possible ally, because the same double containment is also applicable on them as well.
Sophia?
Yeah, so this is kind of going off of how I think one of you had mentioned the strategy of the enemy of my enemy is my friend, kind of focusing on how we can leverage our, I guess, containment of Russia and Turkey in order to have diplomatic relations with other nations, specifically the United States, so we can align more with the West and stop relying as much on Russia.
In Armenia, we often can hear that people speak that Armenia has only two choices as a country: be with Russia or be with Turkey. And because of nobody will choose Turkey, Russia will remain the only source for providing safety for Armenia. But the problem is that Russia is becoming by herself weaker and weaker. It's not the case that some people blame us that we are anti-Russian and speak about Russia has to leave South Caucasus. No, we never did this. Our position was that it's inevitable. Russia becoming weaker, and she came to South Caucasus after her interests, and now she is leaving also because of her interest. And Russian position is that it's better to deliver South Caucasus to Turkey instead of West, especially the United States. It's in Russian interest to do so. But is it in our interest, in the interest of Armenia, to become a part of Turkey or under Turkish influence or even conquest? No. And we have to look on the map, world map, which countries have this capacity of power projection, military projection, economic. I can see just only two countries. It's China and the United States. Even Western Europe has no military power to project to South Caucasus. And China as well is its economic giant, but militarily it's not a strong country, proportional to size and the economic size. The only choice is the United States. They have the capacity, and they have, if they will have political will, they will do. This is that we have all to focus our efforts on creation, to have this new emerging of U.S. interest to South Caucasus. During Trump time, it was some kind of isolation policy, and we saw the negatives for this. But Biden provides little bit hope, because he speaks more about more involvement of the United States in the Middle East, in South Caucasus. But we need to see more action, more deeds, and to evaluate based on this.
I would add just a couple of things that we have seen in 20th century. Russia has retreated twice from this region. One was at the end of First World War, after revolution. They just left us alone. And the second one after the collapse of Soviet Union. And what we see now, for example, during this war, is that Russia is leaving for the third time, because the agreement which is still in force between Russia and Turkey, which was signed on March 16, 1921, and 100th anniversary of that agreement, anniversary in brackets, of course, of that agreement is going to be happening on March 16th of this year. According to that agreement, they have divided the spheres of interest between Turkey and Russia through the river of Arax, and all Caucasus was belonging to Russia. But what we saw now for the first time after in these 100 years, Turkey has military deployments on this bank of Arax River in Karabakh, in Artsakh. And this is in accordance with between Russia and Turkey. So Russia is retreating military from this region. And we don't know when they will retreat totally all their bases that they have in Armenia or in Artsakh. We are totally, for 30 years we were, Armenian government was telling that Russia will not make possible any war against Armenia and will defend us. And we saw that it never came through in 2020 war. This means that, first of all, we need to find the way and to change all our doctrine, military doctrine of Armenia. And then the second thing that we have to do is what Mr. Papian described, to get new allies. First of all, become an ally of United States and try to bridge civilizations. What we are proposing is not militaristic and aggressive, but rather Bosni. How you say Bosni in English? I forgot the term. It's the kind of animal which is very kind, but becoming very aggressive when you are trying to
harm, damage.
What?
When you're trying to damage, it's becoming like.
What is the term for?
I don't know, but
it's hedgehog or something.
Hedgehog. So you have to become a hedgehog, and so we have seen these retreats of Russia, and we are now in the middle of the third retreat from this region, and it is not our fault that Russia is retreating, and it is our fault that we are not understanding this.
And we are almost 2 hours. We are online, and we have a great discussion. And let's go for last couple of questions, Sophia, we have online.
I think, Vatan, you need to divide into parts, because it is too long for people to listen for 2 hours. Maybe you will have part 1, part 2.
Maybe even 3, 4. Later we will see.
Let's go for maybe.
Sophia?
So, yes, of course. So for Mr. Chugasyan, how can we use the available tools and resources that we have to form a network that can connect Armenians around the world? Many Armenians living abroad are unable to return to Armenia, but still wish to be engaged and support the country in some way. So with your background in IT and you know, computers and science and technology, what do you think are the ways that we can form a network that can connect Armenians around the world?
Again, as I said, it is very important to define our political priorities of our nation. And we spoke about those priorities today. Once we will have a government with those clear priorities, then we have to define a strategy of how we are going to achieve the goals that, with the vision that we will propose to fulfill. And strategic initiatives have to be based upon network logic. And as an example, I could just mention how, for example, a small nation like Estonia is just 1 million nation. And they, for example, besides having an embassy in Washington, for example, in the United States, they have a permanent representation in Silicon Valley because that country has defined clearly their priorities. They have, I have met both foreign minister and president of that country, and I have long conversation about their strategies. And what he told me, he said, we are a small nation of 1 million people in Europe, and our identity is endangered in Europe as well, not only from Russia. They have a danger from Russia, but inside Europe, their identity is endangered. So they have a clear strategy that they have to be very competitive nation, and each Estonian has to have to grow its productivity to be equal to almost 15 Europeans in average, which means, he said, that that would bring us a power of almost 15 million population. And then we will have a future, a steady future inside Europe as well, as an identity, national identity. So, and having such kind of vision, by the way, the person was a diaspora Estonian who was invited to become a foreign minister, and later he became the president of the republic, being diaspora Estonian. So this guy was telling that, and as a fulfillment of such a vision, I'm just giving one example of network logic that they applied. They opened a representation in Silicon Valley itself, because they are understanding that the logic is network logic, and so they have to change the ordinary understanding of their foreign relations. This was just an example. And you can just expand this type of example to in application in many different fields. You have to look on the world not in traditional geopolitical terms, but also having the cyber logic, the cyber dimension of the change that is happening, especially with this artificial intelligence and fourth industrial revolution. If you apply that logic, you would see that it's a new world, and in that world, many things are open for creative minds and nations. And we, as a diaspora nation, having such a wide representation all over the world, you can use that power to project a new network, Armenian network, having a win-win mission, not only for Armenians, but also as a technology transfer center for the region itself.
Thank you.
Sofia?
We have a question directed towards Mr. Pashinyan related to what you were just mentioning about Biden and his foreign policy. They said you're optimistic about Biden's policy in the Middle East, but some signs are pointing to a war in Iran and aggression in Iran. So how would that be helpful for Armenia or not? And how do you see Biden's foreign policy in the Middle East towards Iran regarding Armenia?
I do not see that there will be a war between US and Iran. Biden was speaking about possibilities to reopen the negotiations on a nuclear deal, and Iranians more or less agreed to that. The problem was with Israel, how will continue the United States provide safety, and this is why the proxy Iranian forces, Hezbollah and others, were bombed and destroyed in Syria. But there will, I think, there will not be a direct attack on Iran, which is positive for Armenia. And as we spoke during one of the questions and answers, we can try to be intermediator between Iran and United States. And based on our long tradition being part of Iranian society, as well as Armenia is the only Christian country bordering Iran, is also very important. Why countries far away in Europe can be the venue for such kind of negotiations? We as a country, we need to represent our country on the political map, to have some kind of Yerevan declaration, US-Iranian declaration or some kind, as there are a lot of declarations or initiatives. Helsinki Final Act, who at that time knew the name of Helsinki? Finland was a small country, but because of that conference, Helsinki became one of the important places of world politics. The same. My vision always was, and I spoke about this just on the first day of Sasnatsared party conference, but I'm not a member of any party, that Armenia must become a center for stateless people in the Middle East. Because when we look on the map of Middle East, we see just on the countries, but all these countries have the big segments of people there, sometimes hostile, sometimes friendly to the central government. But all these nations and ethnic groups and religious groups have for centuries interconnections with Armenians. Some of them, they have Armenian origin. And this is, we need to use this, because what will be Armenian importance? There was a question about this for the world. Yeah, it's a small country. This is Armenia as a center of stateless people in Middle East. These Zaza people, Yazidi people, Talich people, I don't know, Tats, Lezgins, Alevi groups in Turkey. And this is very important for our security, because we have not only to respond to challenges, security challenges, but we have to create our security environment. This is very important. Turkey is a hostile, maybe an enemy country for Armenia, but within Turkey, there are 20 million and or more Alevis living there that are very friendly to Armenians or Zaza people. Who knows about them? But there are more than Armenians now. There are more than 4 million Zaza people living just in one village, Derchan village, which was Dersim and so on. This is, with this interconnection, will enhance our importance for the world. And secondly, will create our security environment.
I would, Mr. Papian mentioned Helsinki and Helsinki Declaration and Finland. I would like to also compare Armenia with Finland, and we have to learn from Finland a lot. This is also a small nation quite different from other smaller nations in Baltic states, because they managed to survive the Second World War and keep their independence, being only a nation of 2.5 million people fighting Stalin Russia. And because they, excuse me?
3 times try to concrete.
Yeah, and because they were hedgehog, they have a strategy of being hedgehog. They created a nation army, and even Stalin couldn't conquer the country. And after the Second World War, they managed to be a country where during Cold War, where they were not part of bigger NATO or Stalin camp, but they were a place where Soviet leaders were meeting Americans. And so they managed to keep this function and this mission, and that helped them become one of the most prosperous countries in the world. And now there are only 4 or 5 million people in Finland, but they are managing to do having a mission in the region, and the mission, as they were explaining me there, is to be like a neck between Europe, the Germanic world, and Slavic world, between Slavic heart and Germanic brain. And we in our region are very much comparable to Finland, because being a Christian nation, we are part of Eastern world, where we have been very successful in our relations with Iran, with Arabic countries, and even with Turks for some centuries. But then, unfortunately, when the Russians came, they used us in a way that we become victim. We became victims, and we have to change this. We have to return to our century-long mission in this region, becoming, as I said, bridge, and at the same time a fortress which can defend itself. If we can do this, if Finland managed to do this, we can do this as well.
Maybe last question, Sofia?
Yes, I think to kind of sum everything up that we've been talking about and kind of re-emphasize this message to our viewers and everybody watching, what are concrete steps that Armenians can take? Who should they be looking towards? What kind of resources should they be looking up, reading? Who should they be supporting? Whether it's donating, whether it's voting or protesting. What are concrete steps that Armenians can do in Armenia right now to support opposition and third parties, and kind of break out of that dualism that they're stuck in? What are the concrete steps that they should be taking?
Mr. Papian?
I think, first of all, we have to implement political changes. Without changes in political landscape, nothing can be done. Pashinyan has to go. He cannot understand world politics. He cannot understand modern technology. And because of also he lost all good, let's say, possibilities for good connections with West and Russia. And personally, he's denied by all world leaders currently. You can see for months and months, nobody except calling to Moscow, nobody met him and speak. First of all, political changes. Secondly, some changes in law and constitution we have to do and create. And how to support Azgan Ժողովրդավարական Beber with your votes, with your donations. We need to have more representatives all over the country. We have to open the offices. We have to rich people. To our mission is to change the set of minds our people without changing the set of political. I mean, because we are a political group, and by changing that set of mind will change the attitude and create new possibilities for the country.
As was told already by Mr. Papian, political change, which is also implying somehow impossibility of the return of the older governors of Armenia, not only change of Pashinyan, but also neutralizing the older oligarchic elite in Armenia in a way which is also bringing national agreement even with them, but they have to be restricted in their ambition to return to power. That means there must be a temporary government in Armenia which will create a kind of constitutional order. Before constitutional changes, we need to have constitutional order, which means that the poles that exist in Armenia have to agree between each other not to use power and not to monopolize power in Armenia. That is the most challenging things that has to be done after Nikol Pashinyan will resign. And this is a challenge. So our mission as a political power is to bring that political agenda to the political landscape and to manage to bring different confronting groups, elite groups in Armenia into a table and to create this constitutional condition. After that, of course, a lot of things have to be done regarding our defense, about our foreign relations. I don't want to be repeating what we have already told, and also technological and educational changes that we have to do in Armenia.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much, Sophie.
And by the way, this is all those. Not everything must be done before extraordinary elections, but the changes in our election code and changes to constitution have to be fulfilled before extraordinary elections. Other things will need midterm strategy.
Thank you very much. In the end, I would like to say our followers, just follow us on the Facebook, on the YouTube, and you will find a lot of information in English, in Russian, in Armenia. There are a lot of information. So we need to go somehow through this information blockade. So there is a way, there is a solution. So, and in Armenia, this is not only two poles, which is bad and worse. So there's always a way to be aware and understand the real current situation in Armenia and solutions which will bring to us the bright future. It's existing, and just to know about everything, just watch us, to follow us, and we will bring you there together. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.